Welcome to From the Mezzanine, a motion picture podcast. We are two guys from the Midwest who have a passion for all things film and TV. We are not professional reviewers. We do not trade opinions for special access from movie studios. We are not here to sell you meal kits, and our reviews are not influenced by any larger organization or publication. Each week, we put our time and money on the line to tell you what is the best and the worst in theaters, on streaming services, and on video on demand.
This presentation contains copyrighted materials that have been used under the fair use provisions of U.S. copyright law. Further use, duplication, or distribution is prohibited. And welcome to From the Mezzanine. I'm Chuck.
I'm Matt.
And we are here to talk about everything movies, whether they're in a theater or on a screen in the public restroom somewhere in an airport. You know, this is the best you can find. And what are we going to be talking about today, Matt?
Yeah, so tonight we're going to be doing a little bit of movie news, then go over what we've been streaming, then talk a tiny bit on video games, which will lead us into our review of House of Gucci. And finally, we're going to touch on what's releasing next week and try something a bit new this week and leave with a parting question.
Yeah, just something for us all to consider for, a few days, and then try and, do some homework. That's basically what this is. We're going to start giving, the people who do watch this some homework and homework for ourselves to do. Because, life is short and there's only so much time you can just watch an episode of The Office over and over and over again. I know that that's wonderful. I know it's a warm blanket, but you have to live a little, people. And even we do, because there's things that we, maybe have some shame about. But we'll get to that later. Right off the bat, I guess if you were going to some movies in theaters, a while ago, you already have seen this. But this is the first time the general public got a look at this 5-minute prologue. It's not actually from the movie. It's the Jurassic World Dominion, dinos everywhere. It's just wonderful. Yeah, well, had you seen this already? Had you caught a glimpse of it?
No, because I, from what I understand, this was attached to Fast and the Furious 9, way back in, I think that was June.
Okay.
So this is pretty. People who went to that movie in theaters, they saw it a long time ago, but they just released it. So I hadn't seen it, but yeah, it's interesting. It's it's a lot of CG and then a minute and a half of Chris Pratt.
It's a pretty awesome IMAX movie, right? Yeah, that was basically my takeaway. Especially when I found out that this wasn't the movie. This was just them having fun. This is just, a really expensive commercial, which is what a trailer is supposed to be, I guess. But, yeah, I'm a big fan of dinos, obviously. One of my first cinematic memories is barfing in my father's hands, during the Velociraptor's kitchen scene. So, okay. Yeah, deep connection with all this iconography and this imagery. But I hated those first two Jurassic World movies. I did watch them, but I hated them. And I don't. And if this next movie is just nothing but dinos ruling the world, I am in. But we have Chris Pratt in it. Unfortunately, that's just my takeaway on that.
Well, do you know about the script from the early or the mid-aughts that was written by John Sayles?
No, but was it the one that involved dino human hybrids?
No, this was the one that involved weaponized raptors and stuff, where they had guns on their heads and stuff.
Oh yeah, I did see some of that art. I did. I think
okay. Yeah, because John Sayles, he's the guy. He did The Howling and Lone Star. I don't know if you remember those movies. But...
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna do some research quick. You can continue.
Yeah, so he did those movies, and he wrote a script for a hypothetical Jurassic Park 4, because Jurassic Park 3 came out in I think 2001, and so he wrote this script. And from what I understand, Colin Trevorrow has pulled a lot of stuff from this script because it's not owned by John Sayles, it's owned by Universal, so they can do whatever the hell they want with it.
Yeah, that's true.
So
yeah,
he's pulling a lot from it, and the way that Colin Trevorrow's talking about it is that he envisions the world of this Jurassic World 3 as a world where dinosaurs haven't like taken over the world, but they like live alongside humans. So like he said, think of it like a alligator or a lion. Like you don't see them in everyday life, but as a human you do have a small chance of running into one.
It's metal as fuck. I love that. So the dinosaurs have just kind of permeated their way back into nature, and humans just kind of have to fucking deal with it. Okay, that's interesting. I can deal with that. And even John Sayles, he's a fucking badass. He's directed another like movie I want to plug for him is The Secret of Rowan Inish, which is this Irish movie that's pretty cute, and wholesome, but also has like beautiful cinematography about this little girl who is trying to find her missing brother who was taken by Selkies, and it's worth a watch. But anyway, so it's funny to me that he would go from that to having like AK-47 Raptors. It's quite the leap. He's a weird. Yeah, he even wrote Piranha. That
was like his first movie, I think, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Battle Beyond the Stars, Alligator. He did an early draft of E.T. that Spielberg obviously didn't go with. Prolific. Yeah, he even did an uncredited rewrite of Apollo 13. So he's just kind of that guy. Hollywood just kind of poaches or doesn't use the things he does. But I'm glad Trevorrow is at least trying to be using what is available, what's in the catalog, what's in the vault, because often a lot of that stuff just sits on the it's on the blacklist and you still never see it. Like I'm still waiting on that fucking movie about Michael Jackson's chimpanzee. That was a really heartwarming little sweet little script, and we'll never see that movie now. No, we won't. But moving on, we did get some happy news. I thought we had seen the last from Hayao Miyazaki, but he's coming out of retirement yet again for a new film called How Do You Live? What can you tell me about this? I know nothing about it. I've just seen the headline.
Sure. So it's it's based on a book. That How Do You Live is a, I think, Japanese book, and the movie itself isn't based like explicitly on the novel, but it's based on a kid who reads the novel and it has like a really big impact on him.
Okay.
So in the world of the movie, the novel exists as its own thing. And from what I was reading an interview with him and the producer on the movie, and basically he's making this movie for his grandson. And the thing that I find really interesting about it is he's kind of like reflecting on like the end of his life, because I mean, he's getting really old. And I think he kind of realizes that, he's probably not going to be around for much longer. And so this movie is kind of for like his grandson to kind of say like, I guess to like, I don't know if he's answering that question that the title poses or what, but that's kind of the idea behind it.
Interesting. Very interesting. I'll have to take the time to actually read that, when I have the chance. Thanksgiving, is a bitch, and I might as well just throw it out there. Better late than never, but happy Thanksgiving belatedly to you.
Yeah.
We kind of hashed it out already, but turkey sucks when you have too much of it. I have a bunch in my fridge, and I don't even want to even look at it. That's how uninterested I am in that kind of thing now. Mm-hmm. But the next thing I wanted to discuss actually isn't necessarily news. It's just a trend that I noticed going to movies lately. When we went to Ghostbusters, there's this company called BRON. And because I guess I'm a reactionary and ignorant, I just assumed that was LeBron James's production house. It's actually like Springtree Hill or something like that. That's the actual name of his like development firm that he's building that's like worth almost $1 billion. Okay. Mad money basically, but he has nothing to do with the story. But there's this production company called BRON Studios, or like BRON Creative. It's this massive conglomerate that was started by a husband-wife team named Aaron and Brenda Gilbert. They started out just doing things like the Mighty Monster specials, which I'm not even really sure what they are, but I think it was just bad animated stuff, maybe. But they eventually got deeply involved in making basically tentpole prestige drama movies, or tentpole family films, or tentpole art house productions. Like they go big. They go for they're poaching all like the A24, or like even the Weinstein Company would have gone towards. It's like now all that stuff is happening with these guys. I saw their little logo pop up before every single trailer I saw but one, when I saw House of Gucci the other day, and it just kind of blew me away. And then I had to like do more research, because I was like, they're taking over. They're literally throwing money into everything. But they've done some really cool stuff. Like even like they were going edgy too. Like they were behind like Birth of a Nation. And then there's also this random nonsense like Leave No Trace. There's just art house, good acting, that kind of stuff. Assassination Nation, which was just millennial trash, or I should say Gen Z trash. I am an who knows. But then like stuff like The Willoughbys or Those Who Wish Me Dead, like, and I just never realized that they were involved with all of that. I didn't notice their logo, but now their logo is so big because of Joker that they're front and center, and they're just 4 fucking letters. But that was just my spiel on that. They're just kind of it's wild that they've taken over, just from humble beginnings like that, because they got all the money. And I guess that's more to the point. Why we're seeing so much of them is because of COVID. So many people are trying to find ways to fund their shit. And these guys found themselves sitting on a fucking mountain of cash right when COVID hit. So when everybody's pockets were feeling light, they'd show up and, help them out.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like Neon.
Yeah.
Neon is getting like really huge too, and they're kind of like they're kind of eating A24's lunch right now.
Yeah, that is very true.
Like they basically like take up everything that would normally be like an A24 movie. Like I think they were the producer on Titan, and that's totally like a movie that A24 would have done. But
yeah, because Neon, like either A24, like Neon was always like they were always more Euro trashy than A24, I would say. But yeah, Neon is, and that's kind of what I would classify Titan as, unfortunately. Yeah. But as much as I know I'm gonna love it when I finally get a chance to watch it. But yeah, it's wild days, and it's funny, like, who's able to take risks right now. Like, so I don't think, uncertainty breeds creativity, and lots of good things can actually come out of a industry that's in flux. And it's interesting that they are the name that's popping up literally everywhere. Like Spielberg's working with them, everybody's working with them. It doesn't like it's just kind of interesting. But moving on, besides our main movie this week, yet again, the theaters are kind of lame, and there isn't really a lot out there that is catching the eye. But streaming actually had some really neat stuff. The theater kid in me, always resented that rent ever existed. But I find myself a lot more fascinated with the story of the guy behind it that I am. And even like I found his story more moving than Rent ever was. But Tick, Tick, Boom finally came out, and that's directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda, starring Andrew Garfield. I forget who plays his girlfriend, and the other actors. Vanessa Hudgens shows up. But and Bradley Whitford is the late, great Stephen Sondheim.
Yeah, I just died.
Oh yeah, rip. Yeah, rip.
Yeah,
it's,
like 2 days ago.
It's so fresh. Every theater kid I know is had a dark moment. What did you think of this? It's like musicals aren't usually my thing, but I found myself quite taken with it.
Yeah, same. Like I don't know. I normally don't like musicals because I find them so I find musicals so inorganic. Like just the whole idea of like scene or like talking scene, musical number, talking scene, musical number, like that whole like way of structuring things. I find it very like inorganic, and like I'm always hyper aware that I'm watching like a bunch of people doing a routine, doing like a highly rehearsed routine. And so I find them kind of hard to get into normally, but yeah, this was pretty good. It's a pretty good story. And the singing was really good. And I liked kind of the like non-linear storytelling, like kind of going between all the different time periods, and like him up on the stage doing the one-man show and stuff like that. I thought it was pretty good. And like, I guess, what did you think of it?
The formalism worked for me, quite a bit actually. And that's the only thing about musicals that I can appreciate usually, is the great intention that can be behind the presentation of it. Either it can be really staid and lame and predictable, or it can try and be a little, creative. And it's funny how it would oscillate between, literally just a guy playing a piano in his apartment, to actually having these grand, swooping sets that come apart, and and the cast just pop up out of nowhere. There's lots of like really random weird shit though that just must be deeply informed by the era that this happened in and who this guy actually was. But like that rapping sequence where the guy just shows up to throw down a few bars and then just disappear and never return again to the narrative. That kind of stuff made me go, what the fuck? I'm glad Lin-Manuel Miranda was there so briefly, in that diner sequence. Like I was deeply moved by, I guess the sentiments behind it and the place he was at, and the tragedy, behind his death, before he got to even know the greatness of what he had created. But one has to wonder, would it be as highly regarded had he not died? Like that's the what if, I guess. But it probably would be. It still would probably be wildly successful. But a mystique is a powerful thing. And the most of the songs kind of didn't stick in my head at all. I really liked Boho Days. Like I could totally see some music nerds just turning a wine party into stop clap music sessions. That felt really genuine and realistic. And I feel like that's just the whole reason why he even made it a song in that show that he did. Because it just must have been something he did. It felt, you could feel the love, and I guess that's the whole point, isn't it?
Yeah. What did you think of that? The actual, you had mentioned it briefly, the diner scene. Yeah. Like the idea behind that of having all of like the cameos by like Broadway people. That
was really fun. And it was tasteful too, and it was just nice to get all those old heads out there, like that one guy in the tweed suit and the little round glasses. I forget that dude's name, but he's just one of those guys who's just a heavy hitter. And
I didn't know like any of those people, and it was like, I mean, I knew what was happening. Like I kind of was cued into that, but my wife, when we were watching it, she's really big about like Broadway stuff and musicals, and she was like pointing out everybody, or she knew every person, and I'm like, is this what it's like when we're watching a DC movie? And I'm like, there's Granny Goodness, there's Granny, like stuff like that. Yeah,
that's what I mean. Theater kid energy. Like this movie was, heavy in the theater kid energy, and for good reason, I guess, because if you're big on Broadway, that's what you are. You're the ultimate theater kid. You made it. You get to, this is your living, and you're doing it in fucking New York City. Like that's the magic. But that's the struggle, and I guess that's what I really felt like why this movie succeeded, is because you really did feel the misery of just how much he was neglecting himself and the consequences of it. And you put 9 years into something, good for you. But like how much of you is left behind on the other end of it, and it just felt very genuine, because it was like a self-assessment. It's like, what did I actually get on the other side of this thing that went nowhere? And it just felt very honest, and I appreciated that they didn't try and mythologize him too much. He did come off saintly, you know, but the fact of the matter is it was a time of this, it was a time period very unlike where we're at now, just in terms of, like where, civil rights were at. That's a legitimate thing. And it's the guy, like the senator that they put on the screen for a little bit, that Jesse Helms, if you remember from The Last Dance, that was the election that Michael Jordan didn't involve himself in, was trying to get that guy unelected. So that's where that's where that famous quote comes from. But that's just the cultural fabric that I appreciated was foundational to the lyrics he wrote, to the songs that they put in front of us. Like, it didn't feel too trite. They earned a lot of what they did. And I just appreciated it a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah, so it was good.
It's worth a watch, especially if you're a former theater kid. You're coming as one myself. Did you do any theater, or were you? Yeah.
I was huge, and I was like the improv was my big thing.
There you go.
In high school, like I was I don't even remember what it was called anymore, but I was like the improv leader for 3 years at my high school. But
you set the tone.
Yeah, I could care less about actual theater, because we just, the improv kids were kind of like the slackers of the theater department. So we were kind of doing that, and none of us really gave a shit about the actual like musicals and like the plays and stuff. But
yeah, one act plays were fun, and I did speech for like 6 years from junior high up, and got a lot out of that.
I bet.
Yeah, the drama was something that I only could do on an off year. A tiny school is frustrating. But yeah, my cousins were deep into like Wicked and things like that, and my family always loved musicals, and I have to watch like Danny Kaye movies all the time. So it was nice to see one that actually surprised me, not only with the music but with how the formalism of it. Like I said, that's the one thing I really can appreciate about musicals.
Yeah.
The next thing we're going to talk about is true crime documentaries are probably going to come up here and there. I try not to watch too many of them. Like I'm not watching Tiger King 2, for example. But I am looking forward to that Peacock series, that's going to be coming out, because the guy that did Hedwig and the Angry Inch, I don't know who he's playing in that, but I hope it's Joe Exotic. But I saw a Wilderness of Error pop up. Errol Morris is he's the king of true crime documentaries. A Thin Blue Line is essential, because it's practically what exonerated a man, and it's partially what gave Errol Morris his credentials, as a filmmaker. Have you seen that before?
No, I haven't.
It's kind of dry, but his bread and butter is reenactments, and this is actually based on a book he wrote about a really infamous case. Golly, and yet again, my brain is feeling a little scrambled, so I'll have to back up on some screens on Wikipedia, and maybe I'll be able to pull it up. But it's from Mark Schmerling, the guy who did Capturing the Freedmans, and a creative partner of the gentleman whose name is escaping me. But it's about this Green Beret in the 60s, a very infamous bloody case where this guy was accused of killing his wife and his 2 young children. And initially in the military proceedings he was exonerated, partially with the support of the dead woman's family. But then the fact of the matter is, the police, when they actually investigated it, they only had one guy they could go after. And since he wasn't in civilian court, they could go after him in civilian court for the charges he was exonerated of. So it created this double jeopardy that was very unique in society then and even today. And there's just this great ambiguity about, well, did he do it? Or is his story about a Manson family cult wannabe legitimate? And there's evidence to that effect, but it's very controversial. And even Errol Morris oscillates on what he believes, but he almost really thinks this guy shouldn't have been in jail. And
Okay.
yeah, it's one of those movies, and that question always comes up in true crime documentaries for some reason. And this one is worth a watch. It's only 5 episodes, and it's pretty breezy. It's not as weighty and meaty as like The Jinx was, which was the other project Mark Schmerling is famous for. But this is pretty light viewing, but it kind of made me reflect a little bit on my role, as a true crime consumer, in like getting invested or even being interested in the question of, well, it's like, is this person, being set up? Is it just a big conspiracy? Or, should we really just try and be objective about what the facts tell us and just leave all our emotion out of it? Like, there's a reason why we haven't gotten Making a Murderer Part 3, because the reality behind what's coming next is not good for people who want that guy out of jail, or even that kid, unfortunately, no matter how you feel on it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess check it out. But have you seen a lot of Errol Morris, or is he kind of just one of those names that just is out there for you?
I've seen, I don't think I've actually watched any of his stuff all the way through. I've seen bits and pieces of some of his like war stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
But I have seen Capturing the Freedmans and The Jinx, and
yeah.
I really like both of them. I'm kind of on the same boat as you are, where I don't like, there's so much shitty true crime stuff out there that it's like you just can't even watch it all because there's like a new one every week. So I try, if something is like getting good reviews or if something is getting good word of mouth, then I will go out of my way to watch it. And this seems like a pretty good pedigree. So
yeah, it's this is worth it, and because it's an interesting case that isn't discussed a lot because of how complicated a nest it is. And that and that's what most people find makes good true crime. But then it really creates the sensation of, well, how invested in the outcome can you be when there's really no good way to come to a conclusion, even for yourself, let alone accept the one that is actually made. It's worth a watch, and the reenactments are tastefully done, and they aren't obnoxious. It's like you're kind of, it's very similar to that movie you turned me on to years ago, the one about John Benet Ramsey. What was the name of that again? Casting John Benet. Yeah. It kind of has that, even though they're not interviewing them, but like just the way they actually reenacted things. Yeah, it felt very similar to that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've been seeing ads for the next film or series we're going to talk. Is it a movie or is it a series?
This is a series. It's 3 episodes.
The Beatles Get Back. Like, it's on my list. I just haven't had a lot of time. But what can you tell me about that?
Well, you're gonna need to set aside a lot of time because this is like, okay, so it's pretty good, but it's so indulgent, and basically, like, Peter Jackson has apparently like locked himself in like an editing bay for like the past 6 years doing this.
Oh my God, what a madman.
Yeah, and it's like, it has a lot of really interesting footage, but it also has a way too much like filler. It's basically 3 2.5 hour episodes.
Oh my God. So it's like a really heavy HBO documentary series.
Yeah, it's like, and it's essentially what the concept is. He took a unused documentary footage from when the band, right before the band did their very last live concert ever on the roof of Apple Studios. Their very, very last show they ever played, and then they broke up.
Yep.
And so it's interesting in that way because it's kind of showing the band at their end, where they're kind of always getting on each other's nerves, and you can tell that they're really like annoyed by each other. And actually, at one point during the documentary, George Harrison actually quits the band.
That's
and they
right.
they have to go and like get him to come back. And so yeah, that's kind of interesting because they're very kind of annoyed at each other, and it's actually kind of depressing because how this turned out.
Yeah.
But the footage itself is like amazing. Like, I don't know if you've heard about it, but basically it was a 16 millimeter
Oh wow.
film, and Peter Jackson used a like AI to restore the footage.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
To even to like blow it up, even and get it to high definition and whatnot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
looks like it was filmed today. It's pretty crazy, and like
Oh
the
my
sound
God.
is really good, and it's yeah, like there's a lot of interesting moments that's kind of sparsed in with like a lot of filler, basically. Like there's a lot of scenes of them just sitting in like a circle and like playing their instruments but not really doing anything, just kind of like
Jamming.
jamming and trying to figure out lyrics and trying to figure out words and stuff like that. But then there's like really funny, like interesting moments in between all that filler, like where they'll like be making fun of like the Rolling Stones or like the Animals and stuff, and or like there's like a part where Ringo Starr gets pissed, and then Paul McCartney like walks up to his wife and he's like, you need to help him out tonight. You need to get him off tonight. Is basically what he says to her, because he's so like on edge. And it's funny because this is on Disney Plus, and there's like there's a lot of swearing, and there's a lot of like off-color jokes and like sexual stuff. And so it's kind of funny in that way, because Peter Jackson basically convinced them to release it on Disney Plus instead of Hulu.
God.
So,
why would they have put it on? Yeah, I guess because Hulu wouldn't have got the pop. I don't think Disney Plus is it is a prestigious place to be, and they don't co-sign a lot of things that just isn't part of their franchises, or like the Discovery Channel. But Peter Jackson's doing a documentary, though. It automatically has a lot going for it. And the AI aspect is interesting to me as well, because it's just kind of guessing what colors would be there if they blew it up, and to maintain as much definition as possible. So and that's just an interesting technology reality, is that even on your iPhone, that's what your iPhone or your Samsung is doing. They're using AI technology to even make your pictures look more crisp than they actually are. And that's just the world we live in now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess the last thing I'll say on it is like, they released the 3 episodes on Thursday, Friday, Saturday these past couple days, because I think they expected people to like watch it over Thanksgiving break with their families.
And I guess that's something that is the theme of this episode, if there is one, is that there was a big push for a lot of different things to be the post-meal entertainment for everybody.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like whether it was Tiger King or some of the other stuff that even just came out on DVD, like Pig was the next movie we're going to talk about, was holiday fare for a lot of people on the internet for some reason, and there was lots of strange reactions to that movie. Like even like it's like it was on TikTok. Even I saw some people just being like, "What the fuck is this?" But we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, like the holiday, even the House of Gucci was like it had that kind of, this is the movie that people will go to theaters for. Get the whole family to get the grandma will go out, that kind of thing, and. Yeah, but well, I guess we'll just hop right into it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Pig was pretty freaking cool. Our boys, Neon, the boys and girls at Neon, brought us this really amazing debut for the filmmaker and screenwriter behind this. Nicolas Cage plays a truffle harvester in the wilds of Oregon, and he's got this pig who is the love of his life and the source of how he finds his truffles. And then some ne'er-do-well Oregon meth heads steal it from him and sell it to somebody in Portland, setting him off on this odyssey of oddity. What did you think of this one, Matt?
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. It was definitely not the movie I expected.
No, it was restrained, was it not?
Yeah, very restrained and very like, I was expecting just like this weird like hermit movie about Nicolas Cage, but it was like this sort of like getting into like the underground scene, like food scene of Portland movie. And about like grieving and stuff like that, and it was weird, but
Yeah.
I really dug it for the most part. I think like Nicolas Cage is getting a lot of like talk about his performance, and I thought he was fine. I mean, he has one really big scene at the end where, you know, he's kind of letting it all, you know, hang out there. And I thought though, like, this was just as much Alex Wolff's movie.
Yes.
Like he was incredible in this, and he had much more of like a, I don't know, like Nicolas Cage for a lot of the movie, he's just kind of standing around and being silent. And Alex Wolff,
yeah, it's very similar to Willy's Wonderland, you know, Nicolas Cage. But yeah, Alex Wolff, like you were saying, continue.
Yeah, he was great. I really liked him, and this was like a different role for him too, because he usually plays like the weird like high school kid or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so this was interesting for him, playing like a kind of like a douchey like truffle sorcerer guy.
Yeah, he's just a merchant. Yeah, a guy that he because apparently the Portland foodie scene is like the cracked out nephew of Paris foodie sceners or New York foodies. Like they have like homeless slap beat downs with the food service employees in this secret vault underneath a park. There's weird shit in this movie, and that Arkin, I can't remember his first name, but he plays Alex, Adam. You know, he is really like subtly menacing, and even though he's barely in this movie, he had such a big impact, and it's such a spare experience. You know, a lot of people initially thought this was going to be like John Wick with a pig, but it like you say, it has a lot more, you know, deeper inside of it, you know, like as far as its themes and its performances go. And you know, Alex Wolff is on the come up. He's not just, you know, the little boy who becomes infested with payment in Hereditary. You know, he actually, you know, they had some heavy lifting to do in My Friend Dahmer, if you ever saw that. It's based on that graphic novel. Pretty good. And he was pretty good in that. And yeah, I wonder what he's going to do, because his agent does seem to really get him into these really small movies that have slowly just started ramping up in the pedigree of, you know, who he's, you know, in the movie with. But this one almost seems like it's not a growth. It's just, it still is this tiny little movie. But when I walked through Walmart, you know, I had to go to Walmart in 2 different towns today. And every time I walked by the movie section, there was a display with Prisoners of the Ghostland, Pig, Mandy, you know, Color Out of Space. Like, and I was just like, this is a renaissance. And they're all neon pink and purple, you know, and it's such a strange time we live in. But Pig, yeah, it seemed like that a lot of dads are going to be getting that for Christmas this year, along with Prisoners of the Ghostland.
Yeah, I'll say just to shout out my favorite scene in the movie, the scene where they go to the restaurant and the chef comes out. That was like Nicolas Cage's. Yeah, he was like Nicolas Cage's protege. I think that actor, his name's David Nell.
Okay.
The guy who played the chef, and I think he was like the best performance in the movie. Like, just when he was sitting there taking all the shit from Nicolas Cage about not like fulfilling his dream in life and stuff like that.
Yeah, just cutting him into 1,000 pieces. It's like, this is the shit. Like, you think this is good food? It's I guess he's helped. You know, like, he's buoyed by the little acting that Nick Cage actually does in the movie is in that scene. Like, that's where he actually has most of his dialogue is in that exchange. And that scene does carry the movie, and it does kind of signpost that this isn't what you think it is. Yeah, this guy's going to take a beating, but he's already taken all the beatings that he doesn't care anymore. And very fascinating. But he can still cut a guy to pieces. And, I'm going to have to. He's one of those guys to me now, and I wonder what else he's done. I haven't researched him yet. But
the chef? Yeah,
the chef character, that actor.
Yeah. So he, the one thing, like, his most notable role before this was actually, you know, in Total Recall when Arnold Schwarzenegger goes to recall.
Yeah.
David Nell was the scientist who puts him like in the recall machine.
Oh wow! So he's been with us for a while.
Yeah,
God bless.
He was very young. Yeah.
God bless. That's rad. Okay. All right. Well, moving on though. I had a chance to set this thing up myself, but what the heck is Mogul Mowgli?
Yeah. So this was a movie that was kind of a casualty of the pandemic. It was originally supposed to come out last spring.
I can't wait till we can't say that phrase anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And this, I don't understand like what the company that put it out, what they were doing with it, because they basically held on to it for the longest time and then just dumped it like unceremoniously on video on demand last week. So the only way to watch it is to rent it, and it was never in theaters. And but I thought it was like incredible. Like there's a lot of people who are making really like surface level comparisons to The Sound of Metal from last year, because the movie basically follows this rapper played by Riz Ahmed, who suddenly, while he's on tour, goes ill. And that's kind of the similarities with Sound of Metal, but that's kind of where it stops, because the movie's more about him trying to kind of live with, he has to move back home basically, and he's trying to live with his parents who are like pretty hardcore like Muslim. And him kind of bumping up against them, and it was really great. It was I really liked Sound of Metal, but this performance was way harder, a way more difficult performance, because his character in this, his name's Zed, much harder role to do because he's way more unlikable. And then he also has to rap too. Like the thing about Sound of Metal was that Sound of Metal, at the very beginning of the movie, they have one scene where Riz Ahmed drums, and then there's
performance.
One performance, and there's no music in like the rest of the movie. No like touring scenes, nothing like that. In this movie, you get multiple scenes of him rapping, so he has to convincingly rap, and he's really good. And yeah, it was really good. I think my favorite scene in the movie, there's this really awesome scene where he's outside, like on a phone call, like outside I think it's like a bar or something like that, and this guy recognizes him on the street, and then he's like, oh hey man, like can I get a picture? And he's like, oh no man, I'm talking on the phone, like I can't do that right now. And then the guy is basically like he offers him a joint, basically, like he's smoking a joint, and then he's like, okay, sure, whatever. And then he takes the joint in his left hand and smokes it, and then gives it back to the guy. And then the guy's like, hey man, like you can't do that. Like, don't hand it to me with your left hand. That's haram. You can't do that. You can't give me because you can't like give people stuff with your left hand.
Yeah, because you're white.
Yeah. And so he's like, what are you talking about? You're smoking weed. Who gives a fuck what haram is? And the guy's like, weed's not haram, bro. And they like get into a fist fight over it. But it's pretty funny.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
Did you ever see? Was it The White Tiger? Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
That movie was pretty fucking cool too. And
yeah,
this just kind of seems like an anti Slumdog movie, and I am okay with that.
It's very surreal too. There are these sequences in the movie. You probably saw them a little bit in the trailer where there's this reoccurring thing where he sees this Islamic like medicine man that he was scared of as a child.
Was that like the thing with like the flowers in front down his face?
Yep. Okay. Yep. And so that's kind of like a reoccurring thing. There's a lot of very like surreal imagery. It almost reminded me of like a Guy Madden movie, but instead of with Canada, it's with like Pakistani, like England, basically.
And that's a distinct culture unto its own. You know, like even going back to movies like Bend It Like Beckham, I guess, is the most famous one, is like that I remember growing up. More have come since then, but yeah, I definitely want to check that out. I have an affinity for that part of the world.
Yeah, and then real quick, just to touch on it. So unfortunately, the director, his name's Basim Tariq.
Okay.
He has now been poached by Disney to do Blade.
What?
Yes.
Okay, dude. Right on.
Yeah, so this is the guy who's going to be doing the Blade movie.
Well, hey, he might make it cool. Because, I don't know, like, Mahershala Ali is a pretty fucking badass motherfucker, and he's a cool dude. But he's just a little too old, isn't he? Or I don't know, like, I don't know.
What is he, late 40s?
Gotta
maybe?
be. He's gotta be pushing 50. Because, he played an old man too fucking convincingly to be a young man anymore. Talking about True Detective Season 3. But, fortunately, we have to talk about a dud for once.
Yeah.
But Hawkeye did not fly. Is that a fact now, Matt Miller?
Yeah, so, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because, there's only 1/3 of the show out right now. There's 2 episodes out of 6. And, I don't know. I thought I think most of the Marvel shows have kind of been duds. They're all just kind of like pale imitations of the movies. Mm-hmm. And like, they're kind of worse in every way, in my opinion, like worse action, worse special effects, more cheap looking, worse actors, not as high profile of talents. The TV shows, they just aren't very good in my opinion. And they're very like non-essential. Like you can not watch any of these Marvel TV shows and watch the movies and be just fine. Like there's nothing consequential that happens in them. And this kind of doesn't, so far anyways, this kind of hasn't changed with Hawkeye. It's very like cheap looking, and it's some of like the worst fight scenes that I've seen in like Marvel shows.
That's unfortunate because this dude has no powers. They can only like lift so much shit from the first Avengers movie to have their big epic stuff. So it's like how far off from like a Netflix show does this feel? Because they made a big deal of just shutting everything down that they had going on with anybody else. Yeah.
Well, I think like it's pretty close to a Netflix show. It's just very like small time, but not in a good way. It's not like, people often with superhero stuff, they throw around the phrase street level, like street level heroes like Daredevil and like stuff like that. Yeah. And this is street level, but like in a bad way where it's like, it comes off as like really like cheap and just like, I think the pandemic, again, going back to this phrase, the pandemic had a problem with this, or had issues with this, because there's like scenes where, they're walking around New York and there should be like a bunch of people on the street. There's like nobody. Yeah. Well, and you can tell it's like Canada or something.
Yeah, it's fake New York. Yeah, because that's the thing. You can only, like not too many people have actually embraced the pandemic in narrative. Like I know that there were some really cool guerrilla productions that happened. Like Ben Wheatley has this weird movie that was made during the pandemic that's very mysterious. But most of the time, like you can just tell that that crowd of like 30 people is all the people that they could legally have assembled in one place to shoot that shot. Like with that big crowd swoop that happens in a movie. You know that it's just, this is what we were able to do. We can't fill Times Square anymore. At least not when your liability is involved. It's just it has complicated the movie business in a very in a way that hasn't been solved yet. As far as how you make things happen. Yeah. Because it seems like a lot of the movies that are coming out now, gestationally, were ready to be pooped out in 2020 had things gone according to plan. Had to be able to do reshoots and have access to resources and have the incentive to put it out. And that's what's been missing. Yeah, that's why we waited so long to see, all of the Oscar bait and Golden Globe bait that we have coming out. But moving on from movies, I just finished installing this before the show started, so I haven't gotten a chance to play it, but I'm also a subscriber to the Xbox Game Pass, and Forza Horizon 5 is out. This is a pretty fucking game. Yeah,
so a little bit of backstory here. This was Xbox Game Pass was my one big Black Friday purchase of $15 because I saw that Amazon had a special. They were selling a 3-month Game Pass card for $15. So it's basically $5 a month for the next 3 months. So
that's worth it.
I decided to jump on it because I'm really looking forward to playing the new Halo game. And this is kind of just the game that is sort of keeping me occupied right now. I heard really good things about it, and I'm not normally a driving game guy.
Yeah.
But this game is awesome. It's in an open world, and you're in a sort of smushed down version of Mexico.
Okay.
And there's just stuff to do everywhere. It's not just racing. There's all these different events you can do that aren't, are almost they put a lot of RPG mechanics in it too, where you're
That's interesting.
Yeah, you're earning levels and skill points, and every little thing that you do gives you some sort of feedback. They're big on the feedback loop, and it's almost like every single thing you do, every turn, every skid, every drift, you're getting a little hit of dopamine because it's flashing up on your screen, 50 XP or 25 XP, and you're constantly earning stuff. And so that's kind of how the game is successful, I think.
Interesting.
Why
because when I was Googling to find the trailer for that, the first thing that popped up was Forza Horizon 5 Money Trick. So you automatically I was like, okay, there's more to this than just driving around, because I've been playing Dirt, that series where you can just do demolition derbies along with off-road racing. But yeah, it just doesn't quite have the polish that Forza does, and obviously they have a lot more going on in it than just simply just picking a car and running a track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's highly recommended. I was not knowing what to expect, and this is way blows my expectations away. And Game Pass itself, just to touch on that for a second, Game Pass it's an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, no, it's absurd. I have just installed things just to load them up. I've downloaded all the original Elder Scrolls games just to see what they look like. And Morrowind was pretty neat. But then you can do Subnautica, or that's how I played all of Hades. Was because I have that. And yeah, you get all of Doom. You get the whole Bethesda, id Software library, plus all these random indie games that are usually it's stuff you buy for $5 on the Steam sale. And if they're going to be hacking into Steam's marketplace position, it might just be in that, because I haven't spent a lot of money on Steam since I've started subscribing to this, because it might not be exactly what I want sometimes, but at least I can just play anything pretty much.
Yeah, for sure.
I had it open earlier, but yeah, there's really weird shit. There was a cyberpunk game where you run a AI bar where you serve people drinks and you have to make their cocktails right to make money and pay your bills. It's cottagecore games. That's how I've gotten into the cottagecore genre. If you're familiar with that, it's basically Animal Crossing light.
Stardew Valley.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, but now I'm gonna just play the trailer with some audio here so we can hear that beautiful accent. But the main event is here. It is time for House of Gucci.
It was a name that sounded so sweet, so seductive. Synonymous with worth, style, power. But that name was a curse too.
I've been a Gucci all my life.
Your name is in the history books.
Power. You are Gucci, you need to dress the part.
It's chic.
Well, there it was. It came out. We had to endure the freaking like 160-minute runtime, but it happened. House of Gucci came out, and my feelings on it are pretty mixed. What did you think?
Yeah, I'm the same. Just kind of top level thoughts. I thought it was way too long, and I thought it was like a pretty like simple, pretty like uneventful plot stretched out over that runtime.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not a very exciting story. There's some interesting stuff that happens, and it ends in murder. That's like the big thing they're that's the big thing they're selling the movie on that. And so I mean it eventually gets there, but like everything leading up to that is just so long, and like the movie is very like rudimentary in that it reminded me of like an HBO original movie like Behind the Candelabra,
Mm-hmm.
or like Phil Spector or something like that. Like there wasn't a lot.
Had Pacino.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, even had Pacino. So yeah, what did you think, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's some charming performances in here, like Jack Houston and Adam Driver are, and I guess even Jeremy Irons. They're the ones that I feel like they acquitted themselves pretty well, all things considered, given what they had to work with. But yeah, it's just paint by numbers. Every song choice is obvious and obnoxious. Like this is Ridley Scott trying to be Martin Scorsese for chicks. Yeah, basically this is kind of a girl power movie, and Gaga really didn't bring enough to the table for me. So if there's like a low point, it's anytime she's on screen, like halfway through the movie. Like once her role in the comings and goings of Gucci business choices just ends, her interest factor as a character just died. And unfortunately Ridley Scott doesn't use her for much more than just being blowjob lips and a dump truck ass. Like it's weird how much they objectified her in this, considering those sex scenes were crazy, dude.
Like,
that
crazy.
Hard cut from like getting from that O face to getting railed on that desk to the wedding. I busted out laughing, and I was sitting next to two old grannies. Like I just couldn't handle how aggressive it was, like aggressively sexual, and that's just pretty much like what her character was. She was just this manipulative person who, just started, basically sexually manipulating this really reserved and unexperienced rich guy, which is just a tale as old as time. And it's so old that his dad, Jeremy Irons' character, is just like, son, no. Just no, just no, anything but that. Like mafia, like because her family, came from trucking, which is legit. That's kind of true. But from what I've read, according to Tom Ford, who's now currently a pretty accomplished filmmaker, I would say he's made some, pretty solid. The two films he's made have been pretty solid. But his role in the story is actually pretty interesting, and and if there was a movie to be made, unfortunately it shouldn't have focused on the lady who killed Marcio Gucci. That's not who it should have been about. It should have been about all the characters who, like Jack Houston's, who just sat in the back and just went, well, I'm a conservationist, I'm going to save this giant behemoth one way or another, even if it means gutting this entire family and getting them all off of it. And that would have been more interesting, is the story from his perspective. But you can't really sell tickets for that. And
Yeah, he was one of the few things I liked about the movie. He reminded me a lot of like Tom from The Godfather.
Yes.
The consigliere. Because he was just kind of in the background, and he kind of just like let everybody else make fools of themselves and let everybody else like be like flaming dump trucks, and just like and then he just swooped in and just like took over basically. And
yeah, because no one in this family is faultless. They're all pieces of shit. Like that's the conclusion. Like even Mauricio, is just an idiot with his money. It's like you go into business with the Iraqis and you think you can just get away with expensing a fucking Lamborghini. Like, no, that's not how this works. And yeah, there just wasn't enough build up to any of it, and it would have been better served to have been like a mini series or a limited series, or you could just watch Succession, which is what I've heard a lot of people compare this to, also kind of trying to emulate. But I guess Succession just has had more space to explore a lot of these same things, like Jared Leto's character is basically Kendall if Kendall was from Succession, if he was a retarded Italian man, or rather, like, forgive me for saying this, for someone with Down syndrome trying to be Italian. Like, his performance was so weird and mocking, and at times I was enjoying it the most out of anything that was happening. But then other times I was just like, please fucking just leave, get him out of here. I don't want to look at his stupid makeup and his fat belly anymore. But then you just oscillate. And that's the whole movie. There'd be moments where I would kind of enjoy how tasteful, and it's simple the cinematography was. And then he would just do a swooping crane for no fucking reason. And it would just take me out of what I was feeling. Because Ridley Scott is a good filmmaker, even though he tries really hard to suck these days. And you can just tell the dude's slipping. And he's trying to be he's trying to be a filmmaker that he isn't, in my opinion. But it is frustrating because he has a lot to say, so his opinions can open him up to a lot of ridicule. And if your movie doesn't make money, compared to how much streaming revenue Disney gets from Hawkeye, what's the point? Why pay somebody like Ridley Scott all this money to make these really expensive prestige historical dramas that no one wants to see?
Yeah, it's weird that this is kind of his successful movie, and that The Last Duel is kind of his failure, because if I could, I would flip them, because from what I've read earlier today, House of Gucci is going to end the weekend doing about 22 million, which is considered a success.
Given everything.
Yeah. And, and then on the other hand, you have The Last Duel, which I thought was a lot more interesting than this. And that movie it didn't even make its budget back. So
that hurts.
It's kind of sad, but
everyone's eating their lunch on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
So he might redeem himself here. And Gaga does move, a lot of numbers. It's like she brings in a lot of people. And they're going to make a lot of money, or at least, I don't know. They're getting a lot of exposure on, because, I guess just going back to, really what sells this movie is how much Lady Gaga is naked in it. Sorry to be so crass, but it's Mr. Skin is just going to be, all over this. And that's what I found shocking, was just how down she was to just literally just be this cock-knobbling gold digger of the worst order. So bad that she's working with, and I guess Salma Hayek. I didn't really care that she was in the movie. She basically was in the movie because she's married to the guy that runs Gucci now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's some background to that. But yeah, her character is this kind of nefarious tarot reader was interesting, but I guess it's true to what really happened. But yeah, that's kind of what drove this woman insane. And this isn't some girl boss performance from Gaga, because you just basically see the worst kind of astrology addicted personality, where they're governed completely by the paranoia that they create for themselves through what the stars tell them. and what their signs are and shit. So I guess that it might make sense that it got so violent. But more specifically, I wanted to, it's like what Ridley Scott was, ranting about, superhero movies. Like, do we even care what these dinosaurs have to say, or are they right about these movies and these genres and these, industries that have co-opted general, Hollywood, filmmaking? Like, what do we make of the problem of the superhero movie for the industry as a whole?
Yeah, so basically, I was looking into this a little bit earlier today about like who are the filmmakers who have said bad things about superhero films.
Yeah.
And right, like you on record, there's Ridley Scott, Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, David Cronenberg, and Alejandro Inarritu.
Yeah.
They've all said at one time or another, they've all said bad things about superhero films. And I mean, the whole premise is kind of dumb in my opinion, because every single time, if you go and look at these interviews, the question is brought up suddenly by the interviewer for no reason.
Yeah.
They're kind
of getting trapped. Yeah.
Well, they're looking for, they're farming clicks basically. These interviewers, there's no reason for them to bring it up. They're just like, hey, superhero movies are big. What do you think about them? And then they're hoping that this old man director will have something, scathing to say. And usually they do.
That's true.
And so, I mean, the whole like conceit of it is kind of artificial. Like, if these interviewers weren't asking these dumb, non sequitur questions, these filmmakers wouldn't be saying anything at all. Mm-hmm. And what they do end up saying is basically like, they're dumb, or they're theme park rides, or which I don't necessarily disagree with. Like I think that they have some points, but I think you have to like be able to delineate between movies for entertainment and movies for art.
Yeah.
And they're not doing that.
No.
They're not delineating. They're just being like, fuck these movies, Yeah,
they're taking all the oxygen out of the room.
Yeah.
And then we have to remember that the original, movie theater was just basically a theme park ride. It was just a train running at the screen. You're running at the camera. So you have to think about where this comes from and what's the base thing that drives the interest in it. And it's just having movement on a screen. And there can be something higher, behind it. There can be greater intention and power within it. But most of all, it's like what gets a butt in a seat will always be the driving force behind everything. And we kind of just have to live with it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so does Ridley Scott. And this movie, is ultimately very, uneven, kind of uninteresting. But goddamn, does it look pretty, at times. And I love all the costumes and the fashion that they showcase. But it has bad SNL moments, and Al Pacino is the worst one of them all. And there are times where Jared Leto, is the worst thing that you'll ever see. But he'll still get a Golden Globe. Mark my words. He's gonna get him. He's gonna, because this is a Golden Globe movie. This is not an Oscar movie. Yeah, it wants to be an Oscar movie, but if they had re-edited this and toned down the acting a little bit, it might have been brisk enough to be good. But like I thought earlier, if this had been about all the business machinations and whatever her name is, killing Patricio, I apologize, I'm getting the names wrong. But the Gucci guy getting killed. It's like if that had just been something that happened in the story, it would have been way more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had mentioned Al Pacino there, and I haven't said anything about him, but I think that, I mean, his accent was just as bad as everybody else's, but he had two scenes in the movie that I thought were the best. And the first one was the scene where Jared Leto's character, when he's coming home from prison and he admits that he sold the shares, and he's just like, no. Like,
no, because I agree with you on like that. And then when they did the dishes together, You know, like
Yeah.
you kind of that was good acting from both of them. But and then at the scene where he signs, he's like bullied into signing away his, also pretty powerful. Because
that was the other one I was going to mention.
Because that was the soul, if there was to this movie. It's just about the death of a great family, you know, and it's very sad, you know, because you earlier in the movie, that's all his character talked about was legacy, and like that's all that Lady Gaga's character cared about was legacy. And, you know, trying to find a way to leech off this one and make it her own. And I guess that's why she was the main character, if there was one. But Adam Driver really killed it in this. And he was very charming, you know, and you feel bad that this dude died. I guess I did anyway.
Yeah, he was very, at least at the beginning anyways, he was just kind of like a shy, bookish guy. Like he was studying to become a lawyer.
Yeah.
And then she just like fucks his life up, like forces him to dance and forces him to like buy her a drink. And
he make her the drink. Like she owns him from the moment they interact. She instantly assumes he's the help when he's probably the richest person in the room. You know, and that's the funny thing about it is the dynamic, you know that they have early on versus what it becomes, and I do feel like it was pretty honest and natural to what really happened, how he came to realize her true nature, and you know how it was affecting his life and his choices. So they did do a pretty good job of articulating how he, even though it happened really sudden. You know, because I guess the inciting event, not to get too deep into plot, you know, is like there is like something they set up where she forges her father's signature on the paychecks, so that you know he doesn't have to do it himself. But that's how far she's willing to go to just cut around the things that they have to be responsible for when you're a Gucci. You know, or if you want to be able to get away with it, you know, in the modern world as it was becoming at that time, you know, because even though like they spat on the mafia, they are a different kind of mafia, you know, as the elite, you know, corporate family that they were. Yeah, but I guess any final thoughts for you on this movie?
All I would say is, I mean, just to kind of cap it off, I probably wouldn't recommend seeing this in theaters. There's nothing like that. The theatrical experience doesn't lend anything to the movie. This you could just as easily watch at home when it's streaming somewhere.
And I wanted to have something to bring up about that. Before the movie ran, there was this stupid featurette where all of the actors went off on, because this was an AMC theater that I saw it in, with a seam down the middle of the screen. So every time there was light on the screen, you just saw the split. I was pissed. But yeah, it was no fun. But that featurette in the beginning of it, with them just giving like theater propaganda for 5 minutes, where it's like, this Ridley's made a film that must only be seen at a theater. It's essential. You just have Jeremy Irons doing hand talking. It's great. But then, yeah, the movie just it's whatever. This would look just as good on your 4K TV at home. Just wait for it to be on Hulu or something. Because this really wasn't worth the $10 and the everything's a casualty to the pandemic. But like the AMC didn't even have it clear where you're supposed to get tickets. Like there was just a bunch of teenagers standing there looking at me like Hindu cows. Like I was supposed to be doing something when I was like, I verbalized, can I get tickets multiple times? And then their boss was like, oh, down here, I can help you. So why not? AMC, you do not get a good review from me. I'll stick to the Grand. They do a much better job. And next week, we're going to... There's a lot of different things coming out in theaters, but the main movie we're going to be talking about is Vendetta. And this one is exciting because it's our boy Paul Verhoeven coming back with another transgressive sexy nun movie. Of all things. What do you know about this besides the elevator pitch?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I've kind of avoided stuff about it, but yeah, this will be our big review next week, and If anybody's interested, I think it's releasing limited in theaters, but it's going to be streaming for rental on the exact same day. So it's day and date on Vudu or on Apple TV or wherever you rent movies digitally from. You can find it there. So
they have lots of options for that now. It's like Amazon's the only thing that seems to pop up in front of me because I'm usually on my computer. But I haven't actually pulled the trigger on it because it's just hard to rationalize the fee most of the time. But for this, I'll make an exception.
Yeah, and then we've got the only wide release in theaters next week is Wolf.
Dude, this movie's been on my radar for a while. What a fucking weird thing.
Yeah, it looks very strange.
Yeah, because it's, for those who don't know, this is a weird little art house feature from Focus Features that, has a pretty diverse looking cast of people who think they're animals, and they're all being rehabilitated by basically being allowed to act out their delusion to a frightening degree. Looks very disturbing. Looks very cool though. And
very reminiscent of The Lobster.
Yes indeed. Yeah, and that is the thing. It's like, shout out to the god Larthromos. I can never say his name right.
Lanthimos.
Lathimos. Yeah. But you can see his influences spreading just in terms of like how transgressive and like surreal some cinema is getting. It's like you say, very reminiscent of what he did. But Paddy Considine. He's always such a creep. So I'm glad that he's been typecast in this film.
Oh yeah, he's great. He's a guy that I've been rooting for a long time, and hopefully he gets his due with this Game of Thrones prequel.
What was he? Which one? The House of the Dragon?
Yeah, he's playing. I can't remember his name, but he's playing the Mad King in that.
Oh, okay, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So,
But we also have a new one from our old friend Jane Campion, Power of the Dog, and that is Benedict Cumberbatch playing a cowboy. Is this set like in Australia, or is this an American set film?
I think it's America. Okay. It's I've heard it described as a Western.
They're together again.
Yeah,
the second season of Fargo, they were pretty charming together as a couple.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. From what I understand, I haven't done a whole lot of research, but essentially Benedict Cumberbatch is trying to force Kirsten Dunst and Jesse Plemons off their land, basically.
Classic Western premise.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I've heard good things, and Jane Campion's usually pretty good.
Usually. So, I trust her. And another Netflix offering, The Hand of God. I know nothing about this. Oh, is this about Maradona? Is this a soccer movie?
I don't know. Maybe I know about it.
Okay, tell me. What do you know? What do you know?
This is Paulo Sorrentino, the guy who did The Young Pope.
Oh yeah, I love that guy. Yeah,
and I watched the trailer, and it kind of reminds me of like Roma.
But
not in black and white,
like a coming of age story, in times of strife. Mm-hmm. I love all of his political films that he makes, like the Berlusconi, knockoffs that he does. Mm-hmm. And The Young Pope is a really neat show. The second season of that I really liked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like that show too. But yeah, it's his new movie, and I think from what I heard, I think it's very like autobiographical even for him. So
that's much like Roma. I guess that's why it really compares.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And yes, you go ahead.
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
We've got Silent Night on AMC Plus. This is from a first-time feature director. And this is, I've heard it described as like a black comedy set around Christmas.
The premise looks really fun to me.
Yeah.
Because it's as far as I can understand it, basically there's this like mysterious like poison cloud spreading across the land, and all of these families have come to this country house to just ride it out until the end, and, with like all their meager offerings and all their neuroses and problems. And yeah, I'm pretty interested in this.
Yeah, me too.
It seemed fun.
You'll have to tell me how it is.
And is it Lucy Punch? Yeah, Lucy Punch is in this.
Yeah.
And that guy, he was in God, I can't think of the things he was in. He's one of those guys. Yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say you'll have to tell me how it is because I actually don't have AMC Plus, so
I'm still paying for it. I got the free week of it, and then I was like, you know what, this is actually kind of worth the money. Sure. It's how I was able to see quite a like all of the Nick Antosca completionists that I had going on, because I had seen all of his other projects and I needed to watch Channel Zero. So that's really what rationalized it for me. But this is definitely, because that's what's funny to me though, is that they are getting, AMC is like getting into the feature game. They have a lot of exclusives, more than I thought they would. But I guess that's just the sign of the times. It's like, why even bother with a theater? Let's just take it right to streaming, make it a big deal that we're doing it this way, and yeah, make it exclusive.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the last thing that I was going to mention here is the documentary The Rescue. And this is going to be dropping on Disney Plus because it's a National Geographic documentary.
Is this about the Chilean miners?
Yep. Yeah, this is...
it's
about the soccer
kids.
team.
Soccer team.
Yeah,
the
soccer team when they were in that flooded cave. I think in 2018 and in Thailand. I believe.
Yeah.
But
the one
this is from
Elon Musk got in trouble because he called one of the people helping on this a pedophile for some reason. Really? Yeah, he got sued for it. Sorry, continue.
This is so I don't know if you ever saw Free Solo, but this is the next movie from Jimmy Chin, who was the director of Free Solo, and I've heard nothing but good things about it. It was released in theaters for a little bit, and now it's just kind of making its way to Disney Plus. But I will definitely probably be watching this.
Because I don't have Disney Plus, I have to struggle along, on the wavy seas of internet piracy. But yeah, because I'm still struggling to finish the Foundation. I really want to though. Yeah, not to keep on bringing that show up, but it haunts me. But anyways, that story it was one of those news stories that just consumed the planet, and fortunately, it had a happy ending. Because leading up to that, we had all of those planes going missing Lost style, or just blowing up in mountains and stuff. So to have like a world uniting event not end in bullshit and misery and dead kids, there's enough sad stories like that, like the South Korean ferry disaster or something like that, which there's a documentary about that I want to see that looks pretty fucked up, because this is the opposite though. That's why Disney's putting it out. It's feel good, and this is inspirational. So they're on brand.
Disney for sure.
Plus. Oh God. But here we come to the end of the show. I said, not a lot of time to prep this weekend. So I don't have, a little moment of zen for us to enjoy, even though I did consume a lot of cringe on the internet. The reality is I'm just not finding the right tone that I want for the show. So as soon as something's good enough, it'll be good enough, and I'll dedicate more time this week to finding it. But I had a question that I wanted to put to you into the audience, because if you consider yourself a movie fan, or even just like you just like watching movies, but it's like whether you're a movie buff or you're just someone who just has a Netflix account, but whenever you talk to a movie buff or a film snob, there's always kind of this, you've seen this surely, and then you have to either lie or admit, actually no, I haven't seen that. And they're just like, what the fuck, you haven't seen A Princess Bride? Like I just run into this with my girlfriend all the time, where I'll be like, oh yeah, that movie, and she's like, haven't seen it. I haven't seen it, and I'm just flabbergasted because to me they're kind of mainstream. It's not like I'm expecting her to have seen, all of Nicholas Winding Refn's filmography or something like that. But I would surely you've seen The Princess Bride before, right? But that's just the question. It's like what movie are you like actually kind of ashamed or embarrassed that you haven't seen? With the challenge being that you actually watch it. Between from now until next week.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a good one for this, and I will definitely make time to watch it because it's been long enough. But my sort of embarrassing movie is Heat. Michael Mann's Heat.
What?
Yeah.
No way, man.
Never seen it.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I have to process that. I'm not gonna lie, I need to process that.
I've seen many of his other movies, but for some reason that one, I think it's a combination of how long it is.
Yeah.
The time it came out, like the year it came out, because I was a little kid at the time, and so like it's just one of those ones that I've never like gone back to, and. Yeah, I just think it's just kind of one of those things where I've never gotten around to it, but I will definitely make time. I've actually already been thinking about it. Like I have it on on a list. I have a running list on my phone of like a watch list of stuff basically, and that's on there. So yeah. Well,
in mine, it's maybe not as embarrassing given current events, but there's a lot of people who rate these two movies fucking highly, actually. But it's Annie Hall and Manhattan, the Woody Allen movies. They were they won Best Picture, were big hits, and for some reason really captured the zeitgeist of New York City, and of just that culture, of their time, pretty impeccably. And people used to find him very charming, Woody Allen. And he used to be a pretty respected filmmaker. And for some reason, I just never watched those movies. Like, I've seen Ants more times, than I can count, but I never have seen those. So I guess I'm going to challenge myself, and put, the filmmaker to the fore and the man to the, to the dark corner where he belongs, and just watch those two movies and, appreciate them for what they are.
Yeah, those are good ones. Like I think they're good too. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say like they're. I mean, there's people that put them in like the best movies of all time, but
even
I wouldn't go that far.
Talking shit about him, were saying that. They really like in that documentary about him. A lot of those people struggled mightily with like loving those movies and not being able to reconcile it with what they. What he allegedly did, basically.
Yeah. So those are good ones. So let's make an effort to watch those this week, and then
I don't know how I'm gonna find them, but it's gonna. I might have to get creative.
Yeah. So and then we'll report back. But anything else?
I guess no. That might be it. Like I think I will be chopping up some clips out of the episodes so that there might be some more easily digestible snippets if you can't, bear yourself to make it through the runtime. But we have been working pretty hard to keep this as a brisk experience. And, hopefully we can continue going, forward with that. This is our 6th episode going, in a run now. And I look forward to doing it again next week. And we'll be talking about Vendetta.
Sounds good. I'll see you next week.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching.